grade 11s, 12 or 10s, 9s, so you're still pretty low on the totem pole in the school.
We're below.
You're not the lowest, right?
We're lower.
But those grade 9s might overtake you. You gotta watch out. The way you hit him in the cultural soft spot.
There is a furry.
I saw a furry for the first time over the summer at Fringe Festival. At first I thought it was a mascot. Anyways, under the Aboriginal worldview, so people, human beings, are nestled in with everything else, right? Human beings are just a part of the world that exists. We're not necessarily in charge. We're not above, below. We're equal with everything, right? So, anyone see any conflicts with these worldviews? Is there any problems here, maybe, that you could see? Not saying that you believe that to exist, but that you could see. You had your hand up. You did. You raised your hand up and then you put it down. Well, you're just going, nah, I don't see any problems. Anyone want to share their ideas? Okay, I'll share my ideas then. Okay. Do you think, well, one question you could ask is like, which life is more valuable on this side? Over here. The humans, right? And over there, it's all equal, right? A life is a life. And sure, there are certain belief systems that agree that, a life is a life. So that fly you were swatting, imagine you had killed it. Completely out of it right now. Okay? Imagine you killed that fly. It's another sentient being. It's a life. That sucks. And so some cultures would say that all those lives are equal, right? So don't step on a spider or a snake or a cow. Right? Kill a cow. You can step on a cow if it's laying down.
Yeah, you won't kill it, no?
You'll annoy it, it might kill you.
A baby cow, you can kill it. So you don't eat any meat?
Oh my god.
I do, absolutely.
Well, you
Just not pork.
I'm okay with that. My culture, my tradition is closer to this, right? Like Muslims are closer to Christians in terms of that belief system, right? So in this belief system, often, people are told that, well, humans are better than everything else. But again, when you look into that story in Genesis in the Bible where Adam is kind of created as on top, he is told that, as a human, it's your responsibility to take care of these things, right? Because like, how many tigers do you know who work as doctors and nurses? They work as surgeons, they cut things open and rearrange stuff, right? But there's no doctor running a clinic. Sorry, no tiger running a clinic, right? Okay, what about ants? Are ants concerned about what's happening to the bees? No, right? Human beings, do we sometimes act foolishly? Right? Like sometimes we think, man, let's just kick that cow. Right? How many of you, speaking of intrusive thoughts, how many of you have seen an anthill and just kicked it?
I put my hand in one.
Right? You ever just like kicked an anthill? Just to see what would happen? Just to see the little ants go crazy? Yeah. So, don't get me wrong. Even though we have these brains that allow us to understand like, oh, hey, animals and plants and trees and the environment needs to be taken care of, we still behave foolishly. But, since no one shared their thoughts, personally, I don't think that necessarily an insect, a fly's life is equivalent to your life. Right? It's a skill issue. Okay. Is one of these worldviews better than the other? Perhaps. Might not be for me to say. Right? But it'd be good to have your own view on that as well. Right? Like imagine if someone treated you no differently than they treat an insect. Right? So they see you, they immediately grab a bottle of poison and just spray it right into your eyes. Like, we gotta get rid of this infestation. It'd be terrible. Okay? But now let's say you're really keen on like, well, humans are the best, and like Everything else sucks. Okay, do you think that over 100,000 years that's bad? Right? Like, hey, we shouldn't take care of any of those animals. We shouldn't take care of the trees, the environment, the air, the water. Can that go bad? Definitely, right? What about on the other side? Well, if everything's equal, how do you build a building? If trees have same value as human life, like, why would you cut it down?
Bricks.
Bricks? Well, I don't know. It doesn't say brick there, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
A brick is kind of like a stone. I'm sure stone is somewhere in there.
No.
Well, the moon is a big rock.
Yeah.
So therefore, you could say a brick is also equivalent. What's that?
You said they thought it was a spirit. So how is it a big rock and a spirit?
Maybe, right? Maybe that's being too scientific about the
No,
approach.
because everyone else, other people think it's a real as well. Other people think it's a spirit. So, it's equal.
Yeah, so what do you do, right? Like, what do you do? If there's some people who want to put a colony on the moon, and some people think, well, the moon is like a spirit or a god, and you should leave it that way. Or because some people think the same way about the earth. Right? How would you build a building? Maybe by having respect for the materials involved, right? Because Aboriginal people, they still build teepees. They use wooden rods, they use buffalo hides.
Wait,
Right.
so
Yes.
So you can't cut down a tree, but you can kill a buffalo?
No, I don't know. I'm saying, like, to have proper respect for what you're using,
Well, they
right?
do, because they use every part.
You use
of
every
the
part.
animals they kill, so they're not wasting anything.
We'll move on. Now I think you have some fill in the blank. Do you? Excellent. Now you have something to do. I can take a sip of water.
That's not water, really.
It's water squared. For the camera's sake, it's protein powder.
Kind of looks like water.
Somebody's gonna clip that and try to get me fired. Nothing. Don't worry about it. Okay, cultural contact. Like, as we mentioned, culture, right? So two different groups. They could be ethnic groups as well, but they could just be two different, completely different belief systems, and they come into contact. Okay. So you kids didn't see this video yesterday. Okay. Maybe I'll show you. I'll show you at some point. It's a pretty good video. Anyways, Canada, and in your course, we focused a lot on the cultural contact that occurred between, let's say, between European travelers, explorers, settlers, colonizers, whatever word you want to use, and indigenous groups. Okay, we'll look at a couple different case studies, which will help you for when you're writing your essays, because believe it or not, you will be writing essays. Okay. Yeah, Aztec leader, grade 8. You get to learn that, right? Okay. So anytime you interact with someone with a set of beliefs that are different with you, which you do every day, because who else in this class is Muslim? Just me, right? So you're having that experience, right? On occasion, I'll mention that as well, and that's cultural contact. It doesn't have to be this big grand thing like, how many of you saw that story of that guy? He tried preaching Christianity to that uncontacted tribe and he got killed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be these extreme things anymore. It could just be you going and talk to someone with a different set of beliefs and values as well. That's a form of cultural contact. Okay? And so we have this funny little picture here. As you can see, these people, they look European, these people look Indigenous, and the Indigenous guy is asking, just how long do you illegal aliens plan on staying in our country? Okay. Illegal aliens is more of a political term, so alien would be anyone who is not from here. Right, so if a British person came over here for a cup of tea, they're an alien. And if they didn't have the right paperwork, they're an illegal alien, right? If they're trying to stay here. So it is important to understand, and I want to say that how this information has been taught over the years has changed as we learn more, but there were many different indigenous groups living in North America by 1492 when, Europeans, 1492 to 1700s when the Europeans started coming over here in mass. There's a lot of evidence now that suggests, a couple hundred, if not 1,000 years, somewhere around there, prior to the period that we study, Vikings were potentially coming here and trading with indigenous groups on the coast. Okay. But it's important to know that there were complex, interdependent indigenous groups that were living together. Sometimes they were living peacefully, other times they were living violently. Okay. There were many indigenous groups that existed because, again, your curriculum, the way it's taught to you, they make it seem like it's a Disney movie. They were just living peacefully, just running through the meadows, and, you just make a little whistle and animals come to you and let you kill them, and everybody lived in harmony. It's not the case, right? Indigenous people are also people. Okay? Have you ever met someone and day one you looked at them, you're like, I don't like this person? Okay? A couple of us, right? It happens, right? Maybe the first day you saw me, you felt that way about me. That's okay, kids, I forgive you. Okay? So indigenous people are no different, right? They just had enemies. Some groups were not friendly towards one another. Okay? They spoke many different languages. They also had many different dialects. Okay? And before we wrap up this slide, I'll show you on the map. I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson on how indigenous people, it's believed they got here. Okay? There were long-standing alliances and rivalries, right? So some groups just hated one another, right? Think about, it's no different than sport teams, like different fans, different sport teams, they just hate one another. Okay, I don't even know if you kids were born by this time. You might have been like 3-4 years old, but